I'm sitting here watching something completely fall apart in real time. On one screen, a president is posting, "Thank you, Iran." Markets are surging, oil is dropping. Headlines are screaming that the Strait of Hormuz is open. On the other screen, IRGC gunboats are firing live rounds at British and French vessels that trusted those headlines. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through exactly what happened in the 24 hours that destroyed the ceasefire Trump called historic. I'm going to show you the shipping data versus the White House announcement, a French soldier killed, a seized tanker, and a situation 48 hours away from total escalation. If you haven't subscribed to Daly Brief yet, hit that button right now. Turn on notifications. You need to be here when this story breaks. Let's go back 72 hours, because this story moved so fast that most of the coverage is already out of date. The Strait of Hormuz is the world's most vital artery. On Friday, April 18th, Iran's foreign minister posted that the strait was declared completely open. Markets reacted instantly. Brent crude dropped over 9%. Wall Street futures spiked, and President Trump went on Truth Social and wrote, "Thank you, Iran." Shipping companies immediately started making calls to move. But 24 hours later, the reality on the water changed. IRGC gunboats were firing on those same ships that had been told it was safe to pass. Here is what you need to understand about why this happened so fast. It's the consequence of an agreement described in mutually incompatible terms. From the moment it was announced, the gap between open strait and active gunfire was not a flip-flop. It was a logical, dangerous collision of two realities. Let's look at the ships that trusted the announcement and paid for it. On Saturday, the UK Maritime Trade Operations issued a critical security advisory. 2 IRGC gunboats opened fire on a tanker without a radio challenge. The vessel was 20 miles north of Oman, inside the lane Trump declared under American control. Hours later, a container vessel was hit. It was the CMA CGM Everglade, a French ship struck in a waterway an allied NATO president had just praised as reopened. India summoned Iran's ambassador. 2 Indian-flagged vessels, including the supertanker Sanmar Herald, had come under fire despite receiving prior clearance. India's foreign secretary conveyed that this was a serious incident. In plain language, Iran shot at ships it had explicitly told the world were safe to pass. By Saturday evening, the IRGC issued a formal broadcast. Approaching the Strait of Hormuz will be considered cooperation with the enemy and will be targeted. Read that again. Approaching the strait is now considered cooperation with the enemy. This isn't just a blockade, it's a declaration of a war zone. This takes us to the White House Situation Room. When Iran reimposed control, President Trump convened an emergency meeting on Saturday morning. Vance, Rubio, Hegseth, and CIA Director Ratcliffe were all there. The full apparatus of American power gathered to respond to a crisis that developed in one day. Trump accused Iran of violating the ceasefire. He threatened to destroy every power plant and every bridge in Iran. His words, "No more Mr. Nice Guy." Then, on Sunday, US forces seized the Iranian cargo ship Tuska after it crossed the blockade line. Iran called it maritime piracy and vowed a response. The USS Spruance carried out the intercept. Iran's military headquarters is already on the record stating that they will respond to this seizure very soon. While Hormuz was collapsing, Lebanon was also falling apart. A separate ceasefire that Trump celebrated was already dead before anyone admitted it. On Saturday, a French soldier serving with UNIFIL was killed in southern Lebanon. Macron said all evidence pointed to Hezbollah. 3 more were wounded. On Sunday, Hezbollah detonated explosives that claimed to destroy 4 Israeli tanks near Deir Syrian, the first major attack since the ceasefire began. Israel had already carried out strikes in the days since the truce began. The cycle of violence resumed almost immediately after the ink was dry. Trump posted that Israel was prohibited from bombing Lebanon, but a US official walked that back within hours. The policy confusion is clear. The Lebanon ceasefire is only 48 hours old. It already has a killed peacekeeper, a tank strike, and a direct walk back from the president. Stay with us at Daly Brief as we monitor this second by second, because what happens next isn't just a news cycle, it's the strategic reality that the headlines are missing. Here is the strategic reality that the headlines are not stating clearly enough. The ceasefire expires Wednesday, April 22nd. The US blockade remains in full force by Trump's own declaration. Iran says the strait stays closed as long as the blockade continues. Trump says the blockade continues until a full deal is reached. Those two positions cannot coexist. One of them has to give. What made this week so revealing is not just the attacks. It is the speed. Iran went from open strait to active gunfire in under 24 hours. That is a regime that had its response pre-positioned. Iran is now refusing to confirm attendance at talks in Pakistan. Vance, Witkoff and Kushner are expected in Islamabad, but Iran says there is no prospect for talks. That gap is where accidents happen. Two paths. Both are real. Path 1. Before Wednesday midnight, something substantive comes out of Islamabad. Not a phone call, a verified, mutually acknowledged agreement. The blockade lifts. The strait reopens on signed terms. The ceasefire extends. Oil stabilizes. The market euphoria from Friday gets rebuilt on something durable. That path is narrow, but it exists. Path 2. Wednesday arrives without a deal. Trump does not extend the ceasefire. Bombing resumes. The strait tightens to full military closure, and the Tuska becomes a flashpoint. At some point, the pattern is the story. 3 announcements of stability. 3 reversals within a single news cycle. The gap between what is said and what is happening is wide enough to drive a tanker through. Except the tankers aren't going through. They're turning around, and they know something the markets haven't fully priced yet. I want to leave you with 3 questions. When the ceasefire expires Wednesday, will the ships move or turn around? Is Iran's closure a structural red line? At what point does the world stop believing the next announcement? Like this video if the analysis added something. Subscribe if you want to be here when Wednesday arrives. This has barely begun. What is actually happening on the water right now is not what you are being told. Stay with us at Daly Brief as we monitor this second by second.